Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us both in person and online for tonight's Twin Rivers Triangle Coalition meeting. I'm joining you on behalf of Chasten Gold nonprofit. Whether this is your first meeting or you've attended previous coalition meetings, we are grateful that you are taking time out of your evening to learn more about environmental health and the Twin Rivers Triangle site. Tonight, we are going to explore the historical land use of this area, discuss how industrial patterns and activities and land uses can impact communities over time, and learn why environmental contamination occurs in some neighborhoods. Our goal is not only to provide information, but to create a space where residents can ask questions, share experiences, and help shape future discussions about environmental health and cleanup efforts. Before we begin tonight's topic, we'd like to briefly introduce our organization for anyone joining us for the first time. Chasten Gold is a community-based nonprofit organization focused on environmental health, racial equity, housing stability, and community empowerment. Through this technical assistance grant, we provide independent support to residents by helping translate technical environmental information into understandable language. We believe that everyone deserves access to information that affects their neighborhood and their health. Chasten Gold nonprofit is committed to advancing environmental health, racial equity, housing stability, and community empowerment across Sacramento and surrounding counties. We work in partnership with residents, organizations, and public agencies to amplify local voices, deliver independent technical assistance, and address systemic barriers through direct service and advocacy. Our focus is to engage and empower the impoverished and unhoused veterans, families, and troubled individuals who seek assistance with employment and shelter by matching them with appropriate services in the local area. The purpose of the TAG program is not to tell communities what to think. Instead, our role is to help residents understand information, ask informed questions, and participate meaningfully in environmental decision-making. The most important voice in this process is yours. The knowledge that residents bring about their own neighborhood is incredibly valuable and often provides context that reports and technical documents cannot capture. By the end of tonight's meeting, you should have a better understanding of how environmental contamination can develop over decades and why understanding local history is often the first step in environmental investigations. The Technical Assistance Grant TAG program provides funding to eligible communities to hire independent technical advisors, TA, with the goal to effectively communicate technical information to communities so they can become more involved and informed about cleanup sites and response actions. These response actions include activities performed to address a release or potential release of contamination at a property under DTSC oversight. Social Housing Regulatory Authority, SHRA, purchased the Triangle site in July 2011 with the intention to 1. Transfer the light rail station site to Regional Transit for construction of the light rail station, and 2. Redevelop the Triangle housing site with residential units and possibly some ground floor retail space. Cleanup of heavy metal impacts to near-surface soils was performed for the light rail site in 2023. Further environmental assessment and subsequent cleanup activities for the Triangle housing site is planned to take place between 2025 to 2026. The Twin Rivers Triangle area has experienced many changes over time. Like many urban communities, this neighborhood has evolved through different periods of development. As land uses change, different businesses, industries, and activities occupied properties throughout the area. Understanding those changes helps investigators identify possible sources of contamination. One important thing to understand is that contamination does not always come from current activities. In many cases, contamination discovered today may have originated 20, 30, or even 50 years ago. A property may currently appear vacant or safe, while historical records reveal entirely different activities occurred there in the past. That is why environmental professionals spend significant time reviewing historical records. For tonight's research spotlight, let's discuss how historical land use helps environmental scientists. Researchers consistently find that understanding historical property uses provides some of the strongest clues regarding environmental contamination. Old maps, fire insurance records, aerial photographs, and city directories often help investigators identify former industrial operations that no longer exist today. These historical tools help determine where sampling should occur. It is important to remember that many contamination issues happened before modern environmental regulations existed. Practices that are considered unsafe today were often common decades ago. This does not necessarily mean someone intentionally caused harm. Rather, our understanding of environmental health has improved over time. Today, regulations are much stricter than they were in the past. Many residents possess information that may never appear in an environmental report. Longtime community members often remember businesses that existed decades ago. They may recall unusual odors, construction projects, flooding events, or other neighborhood changes. These observations can provide valuable context, and that is why we have this coalition. This is why meetings like this matter. For us, we are using this meeting to ensure we address environmental inequities in our communities. Many Sacramento neighborhoods, especially low-income and historically marginalized communities, face higher exposure to pollution, toxic sites, and poor environmental conditions. The coalition seeks to close these gaps and fight for cleaner, safer environments for all. We also want to ensure that your voice is heard and that you know that you matter. Residents deserve a seat at the table when decisions are made about their health, land, and future. This coalition amplifies local voices, ensuring communities are heard, informed, and involved in environmental decision-making. Lastly, we are here to promote accountability and action. By bringing together advocates, experts, and local leaders, the coalition works to hold polluters and agencies accountable, push for policy change, and support solutions that protect public health and the environment. At this time, we will transition into our breakout activity. We will divide participants into 4 groups. Each group should select a spokesperson. You will have approximately 10 to 15 minutes to discuss the 4 questions shown on the screen. As you discuss, think about the history of your neighborhood, changes you've observed, and any community knowledge that may be important for future environmental investigations. We'll return in approximately 15 minutes to hear from 2 groups. Okay, everyone, let's get back together. Do we have 2 volunteers to discuss what their team came up with?
Our group discussed how several commercial properties have changed ownership multiple times over the years. Residents noted increased development and wondered whether historical records exist for former industrial uses.
Well, our group discussed drainage issues after major storms and concerns about older vacant properties. And residents emphasized preserving local knowledge before longtime residents move away.
Let's spend a few minutes discussing what we heard. Many of the observations shared tonight highlight why community engagement is so important. Historical knowledge can provide context that technical investigations may otherwise miss. What additional examples can residents share? Our prompt tonight asks, how can community history improve environmental decision making today? And for those at home or in the near future, you may list your answers to any of these questions below. I'll briefly go over a few questions that we received for your inbox and technical advisor office hours. Lottie asks, how far back do environmental investigators typically look? So, investigators often review records dating back several decades and sometimes over 100 years, depending on site history. Evan M. also asks, what if a business no longer exists? Well, historical records, permits, photographs, and property ownership records may still provide valuable information. Lastly, Patricia asked our technical advisors, can contamination move from one property to another? To answer this question, potentially yes. Depending on site conditions, contaminants may migrate through soil, groundwater, or vapor pathways. Tonight, we explored how history shapes environmental investigations. Understanding where we have been helps inform where we are going. Your observations, experiences, and questions help create a more complete understanding of the Twin Rivers Triangle community. Thank you all for participating tonight. Whether you joined us online or in person, your participation helps strengthen this process. We encourage you to continue submitting questions and comments to support@chastengold.org. We look forward to seeing you at our next coalition meeting on April the 23rd, where we will discuss environmental contaminants, exposure pathways, and health basics. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for being part of the Twin Rivers Triangle Coalition. We have some helpful resources on our next slides that will continue to play for the remainder of the night. Thank you again.